Welcome to our friends from Iceland, the Morten Andersen League. We covered these guys twice last year. We're back again. I'm Alex, and I got my guy Hunter over here. What's going on, Hunter? How you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm excited to be back. I did the show last year, and it looks like a little bit's changed, but it sounds like it's still a pretty wild and fun bunch. So I'm excited to break it down.
Yeah, speaking of a little bit changing, they actually, before the 2024 season, they just kicked out 2 league members and they replaced them with new guys.
Yeah, sometimes it's just what you got to do. You got to cut the slack.
Exactly. Well, one of them, they maybe upgraded. They brought in a star of the Netflix TV show The Last Kingdom. I've never seen it, never heard of it. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I mean, I've like seen like an episode because I mean I love Game of Thrones, and people said, "Oh, it's like Game of Thrones." I've never actually sat down and watched it all, but I've heard it's good though. It's still pretty wild though that they got someone from a Netflix show, to do fantasy football.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah. So the guy from Last Kingdom, his name is Eystein, or they call him Ace, new league member. May have crossed some ethical lines to get into the league. He bribed the mother of the commissioner.
Crazy.
And the commissioner thought it would be a little bit rude to not accept some sexual favors. So he gladly accepted him into the league, and now they're living together with their dog, Rudu Mur.
I can already sense a little bit of rivalry going there.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into the teams. I guess we'll go through in order of the notes. I think that'll be the easiest.
Sounds good.
All right. Cool. So we'll start off with a tribe called Quest, and this is the new guy. This is Eystein, or Ace, as they call him. New guy in the league. He's the actor. He's very happy to join the league, and has not been. They say, I don't know if I should read this part, but he said they have not been this excited since he watched some hardcore gay porn at a local tavern in 2010. All right, so let's look at this guy's team. A tribe called Quest, his quarterback, Jalen Hurts. I don't know if we should go through the roster or if we should go through the draft order. He started off in the first round of 10. He picked 10th. Here's Garrett Wilson was his 10th overall pick here. We followed that up with Jahmyr Gibbs in round 2. Rashad White in round 3. We'll just go through the draft and then we'll kind of talk about the team. Jalen Hurts in round 4. Then Ramondre Stevenson, his RB3 already in round 5. Dalton Kincaid in round 6. Roman Dunze in round 7 as his wide receiver 2. I think he waited until round 6 to take a second wide receiver. We can discuss how we feel about that in a minute. Then he went right back to running back, Chase Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, Trey Benson, Jalen Wright, Jaleel McLaughlin, and he rounded it up with the Steelers defense. Anything stand out to you about this draft, about this team?
I think he got a few good values. I think Hurts at 39 for a home league's pretty good because usually he goes like sometimes second round, usually like early third. Yeah. Kincaid at 63 I like. I think he's going to be a huge volume hog for the Bills, probably Josh Allen's #1 target. Dunze at 82, I know that's about where he goes, but I feel like he probably should be going a little higher. I really like him on the new Bears offense. And then Garrett Wilson, I mean, he's not really a value, but I do just like him a lot this year. So I'd say those are the good ones, but there are a few questionable picks for sure. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't like waiting until round 6 to take my wide receiver 2. Yeah. And then at that point being a rookie who we're not exactly sure the role is going to be right out the gate at least. So that makes me a little uncomfortable there. But I do like, normally I would like Rashad White as your RB2, but taking him so early in the draft after you just took Jahmyr Gibbs makes, I would rather take a wide receiver at least in round 2 or round 3. One of those picks I think needed to be a wide receiver.
Yeah, I agree there for sure. And same with the Ramondre Stevenson. I think that's pretty early to take him, and especially after already had 2 running backs, I would not have taken him there. Yeah, but I will say at least the archetype of the running backs I do like. Obviously they're all good pass catchers, and Brown there is RB4, which again I probably would have got receiver there, but at least the types of running backs, like a solid floor because of their pass catching. But yeah, the receiver depth is pretty weak, pretty weak.
Yeah, no, I do agree. I do like the running backs that he did take, even on the bench. Trey Benson, Jalen Wright, they give him some high upside maybe later in the season. One of these guys ends up in a starting job and breaks out in the second half.
Yeah, I like Jalen Wright. He's a really good handcuff because, technically he's the RB3, but between HN and Mostert, you just know one, probably both of them are going to get hurt at some point this season, possibly the same time. And if they do, then Wright, the sky's the limit with him.
Yeah, and really in that offense, you only need one of them to get hurt because they're producing 2 starting quality running backs in that offense. So you got 32-year-old Raheem Mostert. He's been hurt his whole career. Devon Achane, he's undersized. He's tiny. He battled injuries last year. So like you said, we're probably going to get at least multiple weeks where Jalen Wright is very, very viable.
Yeah, for sure. So, the running backs look pretty good. But, yeah, the receivers definitely but he only has 3 receivers on the whole team. I just realized that. Wow. Okay, yeah, definitely gotta make some trades for receivers.
And one of them's hurt, the other's rookie.
Yeah, one's hurt, the other's rookie. I think Odunze, like by the end of the season, or even by the middle of the season, he'll be really good. But yeah, the first week relying on him as a receiver too, that is pretty rough. Really gonna need those running backs and Hurts to carry the load for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I do love Rome Odunze. We need to bolster that wide receiver core a little bit. Any last thoughts on this team before we move on?
No, it's fine. I would say probably try to trade. Personally, I would try to trade Ramondre for a receiver because I'm just not a huge fan of Ramondre this year. Even though the past couple of years I did like him more, but I'd say try to trade him or maybe Rashad White. I just wanted him for a receiver. I guess a receiver helped.
Yeah, I agree on Ramondre. I haven't really drafted him much this year. He's going to have a nice role, but terrible offense. The offensive line is
it's really rough.
Honestly, I think it might be one of the worst offensive lines we've seen in years from any team. It's going to be brutal. Quarterback situations questionable, and you got Antonio Gibson lingering there. He could take some of that receiving work. That was a big reason why Ramondre was so good a couple of years ago because he was just getting dump offs from Mac Jones. He caught a ton of balls.
Yeah, and now with Drake May,
this year.
He's also a good runner. So anytime a quarterback's going to run, it's just less to throw to the running backs. So even though I know he's probably not going to play until week 5, week 6, whatever, but either way, still not my favorite pick there.
Exactly. All right, cool. All right, let's move on. Let's go to the Blitzkrieg Bobcats. This is Goodney. I don't know how to pronounce his name. My apologies. But this is the other new guy, currently living in the commissioner's house with his mother. He's also the shortest member of the Morten Andersen League. Now his fantasy skills, they don't really know much about his fantasy skills, but if they are as good. I should have read this beforehand. We do not know about his fantasy skills, but if they are as good as he is short, then he will probably win. All right, cool. Let's move on to the Blitzkrieg Bobcats. You want to take the lead on this one?
Yeah. So I'd say this looks like a pretty good team. Starting with 2 good receivers, obviously AJ Brown and Drake London. I know there's kind of a mixed opinion on Drake London. I think he could be easily. I say easily. It's tough, but he definitely could be a top 5 receiver this year. I'm not saying he will, but he has the potential to be just. I think people are just understating how massive the quarterback upgrade is going to be from all the shit he's had to deal with before to Kirk Cousins. Then Josh Allen, probably either him or Hurts going to be the QB1, so can't go wrong there. Andrews, a little bit early for that, but I think that's totally fine. I still like getting one of the top tight ends in home leagues. And then McLaurin, no target competition. Connor, no touch competition really. I love Brian Thomas Jr. as again, probably not going to be good immediately, but going to be good later in the season. Then Warren and Brooks, I like both of them, but they're both kind of dealing with injuries, so that's kind of a tough situation. Brooks obviously going to be out for 4, maybe more weeks. Although I think Warren, I could be wrong, but I think he still could play in week 1. And then the bench looks pretty strong too. I mean, Bowers, Curtis Samuel, Shaheed. I like Shaheed too. So, pretty good team overall, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, they just drafted last night, so I think this guy's probably going to hopefully move Jonathan Brooks to his IR spot. Think he should be
I'd say
eligible with the out designation. I would go and I would probably pick up like a handcuff running back off the waiver wire. That would be the first move I would make.
Yeah.
Especially because of the Jalen Warren situation. You don't currently have, if Jalen Warren doesn't play, you don't have an RB2 for week 1.
Yeah, and looking at the waiver now, I mean, there are plenty of good guys you can pick up. Ty Chandler, just talked about Gibson, although I probably wouldn't want to do him week 1. Bucky Irving, Ty Algier, like lots of good options if we need to get one of those guys.
Perfect. Let me scroll back over the team. Yeah, Tyler Algier, I like him. And Tyler Algier, probably looking real quick, is probably your best bet to get at least a little bit of week 1 production.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the guys who are available. Yeah, he's probably your best bet to get at least a little bit of production from week 1.
Yeah, I'd say so. Right. Although, if you want to go with the upside, Braylon Allen probably has the most upside of all those, just because.
Yeah.
But again, starting week 1, yeah, probably would not go with him.
All right, let's look at the rest of the roster here. I lost the team. I completely lost the team.
If you're on the draft boards at the bottom right, or on the draft recap, whatever it's called.
Yeah, okay. The Bobcats. All right. Yeah. Here we go. Great content. All right. So, yeah, I like Josh Allen at quarterback. I mean, he's going to have to throw the ball a ton. This offense is going to be Josh Allen.
Yep.
Even though they don't have necessarily the great weapons for him to throw to, that just might be more running from Josh Allen. I know there'll be more running for, James Cook and Ray Davis as well, but this offense is going to be maybe more than ever on the shoulders of Josh Allen.
Yeah, for sure.
I think we covered the running backs. James Conner, should have a strong start to the season, at least until he gets hurt. That's inevitable. Wide receivers are pretty strong. Like you said, Drake London's in position for a big breakout. I think overall this is a pretty solid team. The bench isn't my favorite. I know it's got some good players on it. Curtis Samuel's a good value. We like Brock Bowers. I'm not sure if I really want to roster a tight end 2 in this format with a 4-man bench necessarily, but that's just personal preference. He's a good player. I like Rashid Shaheed, but if I like personal preference, I like to have running backs on my bench. But overall, I think this is a solid team. Do you have any additional thoughts before we move on?
Yeah, I would just say, especially with the Brooks injury, maybe try to get, not to drop necessarily, but maybe try to trade one of those, like maybe try to trade Bowers for like a solid bench running back to someone that doesn't have a tight end. There is a team, I forgot who it was, but they didn't even draft a tight end. So maybe try to trade Bowers.
Tight end, yeah.
Or trade, if you really like Bowers more, then trade Andrews to him. Either way, I was maybe try to trade one of those for a decent running back.
Yeah. I think you can be patient the first few weeks. You got enough on this team. I think you'll be okay the first few weeks and kind of figure out that running back situation. There's always going to be guys to pick off the waiver wire, especially when you have a league where there's only 4 bench spots. Mm-hmm. So there's going to be opportunities on the waiver wire. Guys get hurt, guys break out, whatever, to pick up. All right, let's move on to the next team, which is the Breeze Knees. This is Horny Joe. Do you remember Horny Joe from last year?
Oh, how can I forget Horny Joe?
Yes. This guy is the league's Phillip Rivers. He just loves making babies, is what they say. I think this is. Let's pull up his team here. Breeze Knees. I think he's the top right corner here. You got Dak Prescott at quarterback. then we get two old guys at running back, but still, oldies but goodies type guys at running back. Alvin Kamara, Aaron Jones, and then we go, complete opposite with the young guys at wide receiver with Marvin Harrison Jr., rookie Puka Nacua, coming off a historic rookie season. He's coming in with a knee injury, but sounds like he'll be all right for week 1. And we got Tank Dell, same situation. He's coming off, an injury from last year, broke his leg at the end of the year last year, but until that point, he was fantastic. I think we can expect another good year. He looked good in a couple of preseason games. Marquise Brown, he's injured, but I mean, we've got a speed guy with Patrick Mahomes. If he's healthy at any point, that could be exciting. Go along with Travis Kelce at tight end. Travis Kelce took a little bit of a step back last year. My screen froze. I hope I'm still here. Travis Kelce took a little bit of a step. Okay, good. Kelce took a little bit of a step back last year, but I think part of that, of course, his age is probably, regressing a little bit, but part of that, you look at that, the receivers were terrible. They've got no threat over the top. Everybody, all the defenses are just focused in on Travis Kelce, and now you've got Marquise Brown when you got Rashee Rice. He's now established. He's going to be playing out there. It doesn't sound like he's going to be suspended until next year. And Xavier Worthy, you got to worry about. There's speed. There's guys in the middle of the field. There's guys on the outside that you have to worry about, and that's going to open things up for those easy stuff for Travis Kelce in the middle of the field. And maybe we get some more production from Travis Kelce this year than we did last year.
Sorry, were you going to say something else about the team?
Yeah, we could look at the bench. I like Khalil Shakir as like a sleeper potential breakout guy. I don't know if he's ever going to give you like these big spike weeks, but I think he could lead that wide receiver core at least in targets. Maybe Dalton Kincaid leads the team, but out of the wide receivers, maybe it was Khalil Shakir. He's my favorite out of the bunch.
Yeah, especially
Eckler
getting hurt. Sorry.
Right. Yeah, he's coming in with that toe injury. Those seem to be tough to overcome. Toe injuries, especially for a player like Curtis Samuel, where you're just doing that all the short stuff. You're cutting and stuff on that toe. It's difficult. Austin Eckler, I think he might be dust. I still expect Brian Robinson to be heavily involved in that backfield. Mike Williams coming off the injury. I think it's going to be a slow ramp up for him. And then we got Justin Herbert as your QB2, which I don't know if I really want to carry a QB2 on a 4-man bench, but I don't hate it.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I don't like this team. Sorry, Horny Joe. It's just, I do like Marvin Harrison Jr., but he's being drafted so high. And it's not like I've been fading him all year or whatever. Like, I still draft him some, but like, I don't know, just in a home league, I feel like I would want a little more security. Like in best ball or something, that's fine, but I want a little more security. I do love Puka Nacua. So, two good receivers, obviously, but Kelce, the thing is, like, yeah, I know, obviously, like you said, that will open up the field more for him because there's less eyes on him. But obviously, that's going to lead to, I think it probably is going to be a lower target share. And also, I think they're going to kind of conserve him more in the regular season and kind of save him for the playoffs, which is a smart thing to do if you're trying to win the Super Bowl. But for fantasy, it's not the best. Obviously, he's not going to the first round anymore. So, that's not like a bad price, but I don't know. I would have rather just waited for like not the 38, but like the 59 or the 62 to get, possibly the Kincaid, because Kincaid went 63. Like, I would have rather done that personally. I don't like old running backs usually. I don't really like Kamara. I don't like Aaron Jones. Just don't like either of them. They're both usually – Kamara at least has a decent floor because of his pass catching, but like he has to do really well in that, like 5+ catches a game to have a decent floor because he's not going to do much running. Aaron Jones, he can be good sometimes, but he's always getting hurt, it feels like. And I feel like the Vikings like Ty Chandler, so I don't think he's going to have a feature role. I do like Tank Dell. I like Dak. Hollywood, he's pretty solid, but I'm not a huge fan of drafting two Chiefs guys like that if I didn't have Mahomes. I know you don't have to stack it season long, but it's just preference. And then Eckler, just another old running back who I think is kind of washed. And then, yeah, Herbert as your QB2 when you already got Dak. I know Dak's not like one of the top 5 elite quarterbacks, but as you said, with a 4-man bench, I think having a spot that you're basically just never going to play. I mean, yeah, you can switch them each week, I guess, but either way, one of them's going to be just kind of wasting away. And it's a very minor nitpick, but the Dolphins D, don't really like them. I know they lost a lot of guys this offseason. They project to be not a good defense, and they play like a pretty good offense week 1. So I would probably drop them, find a better defense for week 1. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm just not a big fan of the team. Sorry, Horny Joe.
Well, yeah. They did say that Horny Joe, he while everybody else spends their weekend studying player stats and analyzing matchups for NFL fantasy, Horny Joe has a different strategy. He says, "Why draft a team when you can draft a family?"
Well, I mean, hopefully he's doing well in that then, because I don't know if he's going to do well in this league.
Well, if he's the Phillip Rivers of the league, he's got his hand full.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess final thoughts for me on this team. I would disagree with you slightly on Aaron Jones, while I do tend to stay away from the older running backs as well. I do think there's an opportunity for Aaron Jones in that offense. It's going to be Justin Jefferson. It's going to be Aaron Jones. He looked really good at the end of last year when he finally did get healthy. If he can carry that over into 2024, even for 12 games, I think he could be a pretty nice value for wherever you're drafting him. All right, let's move on to this team is probably the hardest to pronounce. There was some last year that were really difficult to pronounce.
Yeah.
For the most part, they're not too bad this year. This one is Rake Havoc Zikadigas. This is Stefan. This is the guy they call the witch or the voodoo priest. He used his voodoo ways to win the league in 2023. And he puts curses on teams and players that often come true. One of his most effective curses is the one he puts on himself, where he says, "No, it's over. I have already lost." And then, of course, gets the win. This guy, he can make chicken salad out of chicken shits. All right, this is Break Havoc Zikadigas. You want to go ahead with this one?
Yeah, this is kind of a mixed bag because I do love Bijan at 7. In a home league, I would take him. I would at least consider taking him as high as 2 or 3. I'm not saying you should, but like getting him at 7, I think that's a good pick. Then the next couple of picks, I don't know about. Mike Evans, he's fine, but the Bucs offense, I think, is going to take a step back this next year. And Evans kind of ran really hot on efficiency last year. I don't know if he can keep that up. I like Anthony Richardson, but taking him in the 3rd round seems pretty wild. That was both. It looks like he was the first quarterback off the board before Allen, before Hurts. He could be the quarterback 1 overall, but you don't have to draft him like he is. So not a big fan of that.
Yeah.
Pittman and Higgins receiver, that's fine. Swift, this man always just every year I think this guy is going to be good, and then he's usually good on an individual efficiency basis, but he just never can seem to get enough trust from a coaching staff to get a full workload.
Right.
And now, Khalil Herbert looks like he's doing pretty well. And then Caleb Williams, he can run subs. So that's going to steal a little bit of work. So I'm just not the biggest Swift fan. Not the biggest Keenan Allen fan either, but getting him a 79, I think, is a pretty good value. Even though, there's the joke about, he's fat, weighs 300 pounds or whatever it was. Obviously, that was just, that was overblown. But yeah, 79, I think is a pretty good pick. And then I like the 2 running backs he got there at the end. They kind of counteracts each other because Jerome Ford, he's going to be kind of the main guy until Chubb gets back. Meanwhile, you can kind of wait for Corum, who I think is a great handcuff. You can kind of wait for him to potentially take over that backfield. And, maybe the timelines line up where whenever Chubb comes back, that's right, whenever Corum becomes the guy. Obviously, that'd be a dream scenario here. And then Yeah, Sutton and Polk, they're fine. I don't know if I'd really roster Polk. Like he could be the wide receiver one, but again, it's a bad team, questionable quarterback situation. And then this last pick, I don't know who the fuck this is. Steven Andersen, free agent tight end. That'd be some kind of like, hey, I dare you to pick this guy or some shit because I don't even know who that is. But it looks like he dropped him
Yeah.
immediately. So probably just some kind of dare or something. I don't know.
Okay.
That explains why he doesn't have a tight end, I guess. But still, like, why him? Does he have some kind of connection or what?
I don't get that. There's got to be, it's got to be the mascot or a dare, or maybe he's from Iceland. I don't know. Yeah, I agree on a lot of your points here. I love Anthony Richardson. He's got the QB1 overall upside. Round 3 as the, I think he took him as the QB1. Probably not necessary. You probably could have gotten him a couple rounds later. I do love Bijan at 7. I'm with you. I'm willing to take him top 3. I think we'll be drafting him as the RB1 next year.
Yeah, probably so.
I like Michael Pittman more than a lot of people do. I like snacking him with Richardson. Not sure if I guess he's not your wide receiver 1. I guess you got Mike Evans, but the receivers are fine. I don't love the receivers, but they're fine. But I do agree with you on Jerome Ford and Blake Corum. That's a really nice pairing. Jerome Ford's going to give you the early season production. I think Jerome Ford could give you the full season production.
Yeah,
I really don't know what's going to happen with Chubb. And Corum, I think it might be a few week ramp up, but I think eventually he might be the guy in that backfield. They already got Kyron Williams returning punts. I think Corum, in my opinion, he's bigger, he's faster, he's stronger, he's better in every way than Kyron Williams. And I'm not sure an injury is going to be the only path to the top job in that offense for Blake Corum.
I really agree.
And you mentioned it with Jalen Polk. With Jalen Polk, I have no use for him on my bench in this league. He's going to have a Puka Nacua level breakout for him to be relevant in this league. You got a four guy bench with Jacoby Brissett and Drake May at quarterback. We don't even know if Jalen Polk is going to lead that team in targets. They got Demario Douglas. They got KJ Osborne. They got Javon Baker, Hunter Henry. Not that any of these guys are stars by any means. Maybe Jalen Polk is. But I'm going to wait and let him sit on the waiver wire to find out.
Yeah, I would as well.
Keenan Allen. Yeah, I don't understand the fat Keenan Allen stuff either. Did you watch Hard Knocks? He didn't look fat.
Yeah.
But I do think Rome Odunze is going to play a bigger role in that offense than most are expecting in comparison to Keenan Allen. But I think in the 7th round, he's fine. Yeah, overall, I think this is a middle of the pack team.
Yeah, if he had a tight end, it might be a little better. And I'm sure he'll pick someone up off waivers. But for now, I mean, there's a couple of decent options. There's Freiermuth, Schultz, Juwan Johnson. Like, there's these Taysom. I mean, if you want to play a Taysom game, you can do that. Sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah, I mean, who would you? I was about to go to the same thing. I was going to say, let's look at the tight ends. Okay. Who would you? Who would be the guy that you would pick up
for week 1 specifically? I would probably go Schultz. I mean, you could go Freiermuth too, but I'd say for Schultz because the Colts defense is not very good. That's probably going to be a high scoring game, like a shootout kind of thing. And obviously he has the big 3 receivers to compete with, but he's still going to get he'll still get his targets, and he can be using the red zone a little bit more. So, I mean, out of all those options, like he seems like a pretty safe one. Freiermuth, just the Steelers' offense for anyone who's not a running back just scares me. So I just don't know with them. But Taysom, if you want the most upside, Taysom is a guy out of all these guys who could score 20 plus, and it wouldn't be surprising. But I don't see anyone else doing that, at least week 1.
Yeah, I probably am throwing a few names in a hat and just picking one out between Schultz, Freiermuth, and Taysom Hill.
Yeah,
because none of these guys really stand out as this is the guy head and shoulders above the rest. Schultz is fine. Fryermuth is fine. Hill, like you said, he does have some upside there for sure, the way they're going to use him. I think I might just roll a dice and throw him out there. And if we scroll down a little bit further, you got Hunter Henry, could give you a little bit of a floor. And I like the ceiling play of a Luke Musgrave. Maybe not for week 1, but I think maybe over the long term of the season, I think he has a chance to have a breakout year with the Packers. Yeah. Any final thoughts on this roster?
No, I mean, I feel like I've said everything I could say here. It's fine. Gotta get a tight end.
All right, let's go to the St. Browns. The Barmunzie St. Browns. Oh, this is good. Wait, are there 2 good names? There are 2 good names. This is not the new good name. All right, this guy is the biggest drunk in the group. Yeah, this guy the biggest drunk in the group, and on draft weekend he can't stop talking about Travis Kelce. And one time he said the thing about Travis Kelce is that he's just a wide receiver. He said that about 30 times in the same night. Yeah, I mean, he essentially, gives you the target share and the production of a wide receiver. So,
yeah.
All right, let's find his team. I can never find his rosters. They're out of order compared to the team notes.
It's in the second row on the right.
Thank you. All right, the St. Browns. Let's start with Jaden Daniels at quarterback. I don't know where he drafted him. I got to pull that up. He drafted Jaden Daniels in the 11th round. I like that. I like Jaden Daniels a lot.
Yeah, that's a great value. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. I think he could, in a realistic situation, I think he could be a top 7 quarterback this year. He could even get to the top 5 if he hits as a passer, because he's going to run. He's a rookie quarterback. He's going to take a little bit of time to get acclimated to the NFL game and, learn the offense and get used to the speed and complexity of NFL defenses. So he's going to be leaning on his natural instincts, which is to pull the ball down and run when his top option is covered. And that's Terry McLaurin. He doesn't have any other options. They traded Jahan Dotson. It's going to be Noah Brown, Luke McCaffrey, Diami Brown. They don't have a. I'm not excited about any of the tight ends there. I guess the number 2 option probably Zach Ertz in the offense, at least to begin things. So I like Jaden Daniels a lot. I think that could be a league winner type pick here. You pair him with Derrick Henry and Raheem Mostert at running back. Henry in Baltimore, that's exciting. Raheem Mostert had the NFL in touchdowns last year. I don't know if he's going to do that again, but got that guy in the 7th round. That's not too bad. Started off with Justin Jefferson, a wide receiver, pairing with Cooper Kupp, who in a realistic world, I really think he can outproduce Puka Nacua this season. And I love Rashee Rice. Rashee Rice, getting him in the 4th round is probably about where you should be getting him, maybe even 3rd round. If you forget about any of the suspension stuff, because I don't think he's going to get suspended. The suspension stuff kept his ADP down for so long throughout the summer that if it wasn't for any of that, you're probably drafting him in the 2nd or 3rd round. So you're getting him in the 4th round here as your wide receiver 3. I love that a lot. Coming back around with Amari Cooper, Kyle Pitts, who could be a top 3 tight end this year if he finally hits. I know you're a big fan of him. And then we got some running back depth with Tony Pollard, J.K. Dobbins. Your thoughts on this team?
I really like this team. I mean, I'm a big fan of Jaden Daniels in fantasy, at least. In real life, I don't know, but at least for fantasy, I think he's going to be good. Pick 128. I mean, in my league, he went like 80th or something like that, which I was probably a bit of a reach, but still, that's a really good value for sure. Receiver core is really strong. Jefferson, who's still probably the best receiver in the league. Obviously, the quarterback situation not the best, but that receiver is that good, can find a way to make it work usually. Then Kupp, Rice, Mark Cooper, I think is pretty good, even though Watson that whole situation's kind of questionable. But honestly, it might be better if Watson, doesn't play and Jameis Winston becomes starter because he can chuck it to the number one receiver at least.
Yeah.
He'll throw a few picks, but he can throw some touchdowns too. I love Kyle Pitts. I'm a huge Pitts slappy. I have been every year, so I might be a little bit biased at this point. But obviously, like I said with London earlier, the quarterback upgrade is just cannot be understated how massive that is. And then,
if it's ever going to happen, this is the year.
And it has to be this year. Yeah, it has to be this year. The bench is pretty decent too. Pollard, I think, is like a solid late round pick. I don't think he's going to have like a huge ceiling season, but I think he'll give you like decent production each week. Dobbins, that's a little early for him, but again, that's a risky one. I like Dobbins for season long because obviously, if he's actually healthy for once and he's good, then you start him and he's going to put up some good numbers. And if he gets hurt, hopefully not, but at this point, he's probably likely to get hurt. You just drop him, move on. You're not stuck with him like you would be on best ball. So I don't mind him. It's just a little early. Then Henry and Mostert, they're both fine. I don't love either one, but they're both fine. So overall, I'd say this is a good team. I like it.
Yeah, I do too. I think I got them. I kind of ranked all the teams. They're my fourth team. I like team 4.
I should have ranked mine.
Yeah, it just helps me stay organized, I guess. I don't think Jameson Williams is ever going to happen. I think he might be better than he's been in the past, but I don't know if that's ever going to happen.
Yeah, it's just, for whatever reason, like obviously the suspension and injuries and everything, like, yeah, you can make a case that he's just been unlucky, but it's just there's been so many cases whenever a receiver that's drafted that highly just does not produce for whatever reason for the first couple seasons, they're probably not going to. So I don't know. He could be an outlier though. You never know.
Yeah, he came in highly touted out of Alabama. They drafted him, I think, 12th overall. The role is certainly going to be there. The opportunity is there for him to perform this year. So this is a take it or leave it year. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen now. If it doesn't happen this year, it's never going to happen.
I agree.
I just don't think it's going to happen. All right. Solid team. I think you're solid at running back. You're strong at wide receiver. I like Pitts. I love Jaden Daniels, especially where you got him. I think this team definitely has a chance to compete, especially if Justin Jefferson is fine with Sam Darnold, which I think he will be. Might not be what he got out of Kirk Cousins necessarily, but half a step down from that, I think you're still got a top 5 wide receiver. All right. Let's move on to the Swamp Ogres. This is Gujan. So in the note to Swamp Monsters on the ESPN is Swamp Ogres. So this guy is too scared to make trades. He's too scared to make moves, and he's too scared to win.
Can't play like that. You got to take some risks.
Can't play. Absolutely. All right, so let's look at his roster here. The Swamp Ogres. He started off with the 101. He took Christian McCaffrey. Can't go wrong with taking Christian McCaffrey at the 101. And then we followed up with Brandon Ayuk. So they drafted last night. Brandon Ayuk signs his extension. This is probably about where he was going to go if he had signed this in June. So I think he's fine there as your wide receiver 1. Pick 24. You follow that up with Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle, it's a little disappointing last year, but it's going to be a great offense. I think his role is going to expand a little bit. I think he does have a little injury that he's battling, but I do like Waddle. I think he's going to at least be better than he was last year. I'm not sure how much I like. Go ahead.
So I was going to say, I think he only scored like 2 touchdowns last year, maybe 3. Like he ran pretty poorly in the touchdown efficiency. So, and a lot of that was, they got such a big lead in the first half and they weren't throwing it much in the second half. So, and they admitted that they were towards the end of the season, they were just trying to force feed Tyreek the ball in the second half of games just to get him the record. So kind of a lot win against Waddle. I think he's gonna bounce back more this year. I like Waddle.
Yeah, and the first and second half splits, I forget the exact stat, but if you look at his targets in the first half of games versus the second half of games, where, like you said, they had big leads. They're not needing to throw the ball a ton. It's a huge discrepancy. So if their game's a little more competitive this year, which you mentioned earlier, their defense is very questionable. So the games are going to be a lot more they're going to be a lot more competitive, less blowouts. They're still going to score a ton of points, but so is the other team. So they're going to need to pass more, which is going to be more opportunities for Jalen Waddle. I don't know how I feel about Joe Mixon in the 4th round. After I take Christian McCaffrey at the 101, I'm probably going to wait a little bit longer on my running back too. That's my RB2. I know Mixon, he's in a good offense. He's going to have a good role. Devin Singletary did well in the second half in that offense, in that role last year. I don't know. There's something about Mixon it just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I don't know. How do you feel about Mixon?
Yeah, I mean, he's just a pure volume play. Like, he's not that good from an efficiency standpoint anymore, but he's on a good offense. I mean, he's probably just going to luck into a decent amount of touchdowns because the competition behind him is non-existent. So it's just this is a very meh pick who probably is not going to win or lose you the league. So,
Yeah, no, I agree with that. He's not going to win or lose you the league. Yeah, I'm okay with that. But you got Nico Collins, you got Tank Dell, you got Stephon Diggs, even Dalton Schultz. Mixon's going to be at best he's going to be 4th on the mind for the offensive play caller.
Yeah.
Anyway, we followed up with Patrick Mahomes in the 5th round. I'm cool with that. I think that's a fine spot for him. Calvin Ridley, he was a dud. Calvin Ridley was a dud in Jacksonville last year. I think we could get a little bit of a bounce back. I mean, the guy hadn't played in 2 years. And he's 29 years old. He's takes a little bit more time to kind of ramp things up and get back into football shape and playing games. And he was this close to several touchdowns. I'm not a big Calvin Ridley guy, but I think he can at least be better than he was last year, especially if this DeAndre Hopkins knee injury lingers a little bit longer into the regular season. It really comes down to how do you feel about Will Levis, if you think Ridley is going to perform or not. What do you think about Ridley?
Yeah, I mean, the target competition's probably a little better than last year because Hopkins is there, but I mean, other than that, Tyler Boyd at this point, Traylon Burks. Unfortunately, I was a huge Burks believer, but he's just a complete bust, worthless. Okay. And then the tight end room, Chigakonkwo, he's not even going to be. I was reading earlier that they're going to run more of a committee, and he's not going to play like a workhorse tight end load. So, I mean, just for the blocking for the other guys, but still, so it doesn't have a lot of competition for targets. Did get pretty unlucky. I'm not saying it wasn't his fault, but with all the drop touchdowns last year, I mean, I don't remember exactly how many, but he had 4 or 5 drop touchdowns in the end zone. He had a few more that he dropped that if he caught it, he probably could have ran to the end zone. So it was something crazy like that.
It was drops, and a couple of times I think his toe was out of bounds.
Yeah.
Tight end. I like Evan Ingram. He loses a little bit of target competition with Calvin Ridley going to Jacksonville. I know they drafted a wide receiver in the 1st round, but it's going to take him some time to get going. I like Evan Ingram. He's going to be a target volume monster, I think. And then we get to what might be one of the worst picks in the draft. Nick Chubb in round 8.
Yeah, that's pretty bad because we just talked about earlier. We don't know when he's going to be back. If he's going to be back, I think he probably will, but it wouldn't be the craziest thing if he doesn't play it all season. I would not be shocked. And when he does get back, I mean, he's not. Yep. I doubt they're just going to give him 20 touch workload every game. And I don't like that pick at all. I wouldn't even in this league. I would maybe draft him in the last round, if that. But maybe not even that. So I think that's a pretty big reach.
Yeah, I mean, best case scenario, you draft him in the last round, put him on the IR spot, see what happens. But in the 8th round, like you said, it's going to be a while before we see him. Even when we do, he's not going to have the full workload. And I mean, he's 28 years old, coming off a third
Crazy.
catastrophic knee injury in his career, and he's probably not going to have the same explosiveness that he had prior to the injury, at least not until next year, and then he'll be 29, and that doesn't matter for this league right now anyway. So I'm full fade on Nick Chubb.
I agree. I've barely drafted him at all through all the drafts I've done. It's hard.
I'm also I don't think I've drafted him at all. Another guy I've barely drafted is Keon Coleman. I just don't believe in the talent. I know the opportunity is there. He wasn't that productive at Florida State, and I just don't know if he is the type of wide receiver that is going to break out at any point in the NFL.
Yeah, he just seems like one of these athletic, receivers who, he can moss the defenders in college, all these jump balls and stuff. But, all these reports in the practice in the preseason, everything, he just cannot separate when he's running routes. And obviously, That's the best skill a receiver can have, other than catching, as you could say. But being able to get open, got to be able to do that. And I mean, he definitely could improve, but usually, whenever receivers they can't even do that whenever coming in as a rookie, it's hard for them to improve on that a lot. So yeah, I'm not a fan of Coleman either.
If you can't separate at the college level, you're sure as hell not going to be able to separate in the NFL. And I referenced Hard Knocks earlier, but the Bears, who are the focus of Hard Knocks this year, they played the Bills in one of their preseason games, and there's a shot where Keon Coleman is getting absolutely mauled by Bills defenders. He cannot get away from them in the end zone. He can't separate from them. They're like tackling him in the end zone. He can't get away from them. He's going to have to be a guy who's going to have like a Kelvin Benjamin type year to ever be productive, where Cam Newton was just throwing him jump balls down the field, and he just got lucky, came down with them. I'm not going to count on that from Keon Coleman.
No, I would not be either.
All right. Any other thoughts on this team?
No, I mean he kind of does make up for the Chubb pick a little bit. I'll just hit real quick on the 3 running backs, but the 3 other running backs on the bench, I do like all of them. Herbert, talked about him earlier. He's a good runner, and if Swift were to get hurt, he'd probably have a decent workload. Marshawn Lloyd, I like him. Packers always kind of run a 2 running back system, and he's a pretty good pass catcher, so that seems like a pretty good floor, even though he's kind of hurt right now. And Ray Davis is also pretty nice. I think he could take some of James Cook's workload. And I think he could be pretty decent. So pretty good bench running backs. Just Chubb just kind of muddies the whole situation.
Yeah, I agree. I do like the backup running backs, and I love having these types. This is my type of bench. This is how my bench would look: running back, running back, running back, running back. Prior to like August, like June and July, Marshawn Lloyd was one of my most drafted running backs on Underdog. And then because I love him, he's a great, he's explosive. He's going to have an opportunity in that offense. And now we got AJ Dillon's out for the year, but Marshawn Lloyd, he's barely seen the field for the entire summer. And as a rookie, that does worry me about what his role is going to be. How much are they going to trust him if and when Josh Jacobs gets hurt? Is he going to be in a committee with Emmanuel Wilson? I don't know. But I do love the talent of Lloyd, and I like rostering him. But there are more question marks at this point than there were a couple months ago. And Ray Davis, he could end up. I mean, he could fall in the end zone for a handful of touchdowns this year, just playing as the number 2.
Yeah.
All right.
Who we got next?
Let's move on. Next up, we got the Bad Boys. I don't know how to say that, but it's the Bad Boys. This is Renard. He never accepts a trade if he's not 100% the favorite in the trade. He's very scared of trades, and he never trades with players with similar NFL knowledge, but he loves scamming good players out of the weak fantasy gamers. Let's look at the Bad Boys. Find I found them. All right.
Yeah.
You want to take the lead on this one?
Yeah, so starting out pretty strong with Amon-Ra St. Brown, obviously. Very good floor, pretty good ceiling, stud, don't have to say much else. Pacheco at 20, that's a little higher than I would like him a week ago before they signed Samaje Perine. I don't think he's going to have like a huge – it doesn't make Pacheco bad or anything, but one of the appeals of Pacheco was that he was going to get some more McKinnon's pass game work, but now Perine's probably going to take that role, so Pacheco may not get the workhorse load we were kind of expecting. He's fine, but yeah, 20, it's a little high for my liking. Next three receivers, though, Debo 29, nice. DJ Moore 44, very nice. Diggs at 53, that's awesome. So really good receiver core. And then a couple, actually three straight, pretty decent running backs. So Montgomery, Najee, Zach Moss. They're all kind of honestly similar. Like none of them are explosive, but they're all like pretty solid, and they're probably the favorite to lead the team like on goal line carries. So they're all fine. The thing is, though, you waited pretty long at tight end and quarterback. I always like in a home league getting at least one elite tight end or quarterback, preferably both, and then maybe getting some value running backs later. Ferguson to me is fine. It could be the number 2 option on the Cowboys, possibly, and he's just one of those tight ends who just on a good offense will luck into some touchdowns. And Hawkinson, it looks like probably going to put him on the IR if you haven't already. Probably not a bad. I won't say bad, but I probably wouldn't. I would have waited until like the last round to get him, then put him on the IR. And pretty a quarterback. I mean, he's not that special. I think there are a couple quarterbacks on the waivers I'd rather have over him. Looking now. Well, okay, never mind. Actually, I would probably say Caleb Williams over him, but I guess you do kind of have the stack with Debo, so that's not bad. So overall, like I do love the receivers. Pretty solid running backs, just no elite tight end or elite quarterback kind of caps the upside a little bit, I'd say. So it's a solid team, though.
Yeah, I like this team. I like Amon-Ra at 5. Like you said, Pacheco might be a little bit early, especially now with the Perine addition. He can at least take a little bit of that, check down, screen game appeal, even some red zone opportunities. Maybe not goal line opportunities, but red zone touches a little bit for Perine. Coaches just trust Samaje Perine. They trust him in pass protection. They trust him in the passing game. So he's going to have a little bit of a role in this offense. I don't know if it's going to significantly impact Isaiah Pacheco, but it could be enough to make maybe not worth a second-round pick. But I do love Pacheco. I've always loved Pacheco, so I'm cool with him as your RB1. Dave Montgomery, a lot of touchdown opportunities there. He's going to lead the team in carries at least, so there's going to be volume there in one way or another. I love Amon-Ra. Debo, I've never been a huge Debo guy, but as your wide receiver too, I'm cool with it. I love DJ Moore. Diggs is good. And I like the running backs on the bench. Najee Harris. Najee Harris is going to have a ton of carries this year, especially with Jalen Warren coming into the year with an injury. Zach Moss, I'm okay with Zach Moss. He's another guy who could end up with just getting a bunch of touchdowns and a good offense. He's going to be the goal line guy at least. I know Chase Brown's going to take a significant opportunity in that backfield as well, but Zach Moss will probably lead in carries. He'll lead in goal line carries and a good Bengals offense. So that's a guy I'm comfortable having on my bench. Yeah, I think this team could be a top 3 team in this league if things go a certain way. I like Purdy. I think I like Purdy better than you.
Yeah, it's just the
higher on Purdy.
Just
an efficient offense. Right.
Sorry,
right.
There's a bit of a
you're not going to expect top 5.
I'll stop.
Yeah, no, there is a lag. Yeah, there's a delay. Yeah. Purdy doesn't have the rushing upside of some of the other quarterbacks. He's not going to give you that top 5, production, but I think he's going to be consistent, backhand QB1 for you. Going to give you efficiency. Going to give you some passing touchdowns. I think overall it's a solid team. I don't know who the Giants playing in week 1. I don't know how I feel about them being in your defense, but
they play the Vikings, so just
maybe we look
depends if
into
you
some Sam Darnold. Yeah, maybe we get some Sam Darnold turnovers.
maybe he sees some ghosts because it is a
Any
MetLife.
last? That's right. That's right. Any last thoughts on the scene?
No, I mean I wouldn't really change much about it. And like I said, it's pretty solid. Pretty solid.
All right, let's go to the Gainesville Grinders. This is Peter. He's the king of the regular season. He loves beating teams in the regular season, but he doesn't have the balls to compete on the big stage. Peter is the current Toilet Bowl champion. He has promised to get into the playoffs this year. And if not, he has threatened to cut off his penis in front of the player that he drafted first.
Oh, man.
So let's see. Who was the player that he drafted?
CeeDee Lamb. Well,
CeeDee Lamb, you've been warned. All right, let's pull up this team. Gainesville Grinders started with CeeDee Lamb at the 3. I like CeeDee Lamb a lot at the 3. I'm probably taking him at the 1. Although it's a half PPR league, so maybe go with the running back. But I love CeeDee Lamb. He's a top 3 player for sure. I'm not that worried about him missing training camp. It might be a little bit of a slow start because of that, but overall, I think we'll get the same production we're used to getting from CeeDee Lamb. Devon Achane in round 2. That's a risky pick there. He's not a your typical like bell cow running back, and I don't think I'm going to take a guy like that in the second round. I don't know. Are you with me on that? You're an Achane guy?
I am a big Achane guy. Yeah, I think that's fine taking him there. It is risky for sure. He's just one of those guys that's if the chips fall his way is that the expression. Either way, if it goes his way, he could be like a top 3 running back, and I don't think anyone would really be surprised. Now, I mean, he had to stay healthy to be able to do that, obviously, but he definitely has the potential. Just how insanely efficient he is that he doesn't have to get like a huge workhorse load. He gets like 18-ish touches a game because currently most of people project him to have like anywhere from like 12 to 14 touches a game, and he's still going this high. So if he were to get something like more than that, obviously it would require an injury probably to one of the other guys. But the potential is high. It is a risky pick though because the injury risk plus just maybe he doesn't run as efficient as he did last year because it's obviously very hard to do. So I get both sides of the argument there.
Yeah, I'm not a guy I've drafted much of this year. I could say the same thing about Nico Collins. I don't know if he is a proper alpha wide receiver either. You're going to compete with Stephon Diggs. You're going to compete with Tank Dell. I mean, it took until year 3 to get any sort of production from Nico Collins. And I think a lot of that was just CJ Stroud elevating his game. I'm not a big Nico Collins guy. I think he's fine here in round 3. Not a guy I'm drafting a ton of. I do like Devontae Smith as your wide receiver 3, though, in the 4th round. CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud will be good. I'm probably preferring more of like a Kyler Murray in this range. I don't know exactly where Kyler Murray went, but I would pick like a Kyler over CJ Stroud. I just want the rushing production over a pocket passer in round 5. I think Patrick Mahomes also went in round 5. So it feels a little early for CJ Stroud. Kittle is kind of hit or miss, week to week, but he'll win you some weeks, and then there's other weeks where he's going to do nothing for you. I'm okay with that. I'll embrace the volatility there. Zamir White should just get a, 7th round here. He's going to give you he's going to be a pure volume guy for you.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not a big believer in Devin Singletary in the 8th round though. Bad offense. I've never been a big Singletary guy. You're not dropping him either.
Yeah, he was another guy last year who he did better than he'd ever done in his career just because CJ Stroud basically was elevating him, and he's just a slight drop off going from CJ Stroud to Daniel Jones, just a little bit. yeah, I mean, he
Just a
obviously
little
is
bit.
not going to have any competition, but it's just one of those classic, man running backs on a bad team, but no one else behind him. So, I mean, I'm not a fan of that personally.
Yeah, he's like your classic. He might be a little outside of the running back dead zone, but he's your classic running back dead zone. You're not running back dead zone runner. You're not drafting him because he's this really talented running back. You're drafting him because he's the only running back.
Yeah.
And when you're the only running back in a bad offense, that's really concerning to me. And he's kind of a full fade.
Yeah.
Josh Palmer. Josh Palmer is another guy you're drafting for situation. He's just kind of just an okay wide receiver. He's your baseline replacement level starting wide receiver in the NFL. In an offense that's not going to be super pass heavy, super explosive, I don't think. I'm fine with it, but I don't know. At this point in the draft, I'm probably going to shoot for a little more upside. Where I do like the upside here is we'll skip over Zeke because I don't think there's really upside with him necessarily. Despite him playing in a good offense, at least he's got that. But there's Jordan Mason. Jordan Mason has been a late riser here at the end of the draft season with Elijah Mitchell on IR. Isaac Guerrero hasn't practiced all summer. Christian McCaffrey with the calf injury already. And Jordan Mason himself is impressed in training camp. He's impressed in preseason. He's going to be the direct backup to Christian McCaffrey. Now, obviously, if Christian McCaffrey goes down, he's not going to slide right into the Christian McCaffrey role. Nobody is.
Yeah.
But at least he'll be the RB1 on a really good offense, in a scheme that produces running backs at a high level, pretty much no matter who they roll out there. So I think Jordan Mason has ascended to one of the top handcuff running backs in all of fantasy football. So I love having him on my roster.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then Greg Dortch. Greg Dortch is not a guy that I'm inspired to draft in a redraft league where I can add and drop guys off the waiver wire. He'll give you a little baseline production, but I don't think he's ever going to enter your lineup. He's so easily replaceable on the waiver wire. Just drop him. We went over the guys on the waiver wire a little bit. Let's get a Braylon Allen, get one of these high upside handcuff running backs that if any point the starter on their team goes down, you're going to drop Greg Dortch to get them anyway. So why don't you just have them on your roster to begin with instead of battling 11 other teams to go get this guy off the waiver wire that everybody's racing to the second Breece Hall goes down. Everybody's going to want Braylon Allen. Why is he on the waiver wire and not Greg Dortch? All right, rant over. So the Grinders, I've got them as a bottom 3 team this league. Even though there are some pieces that I like.
I'm a little bit higher than bottom 3. I'd say kind of middle of the pack because, I mean, I am higher on HN than you, but I get why. And I do like Nico a good bit, but honestly, I think you could say that Devonta should probably – I personally think Devonta should go right where Nico goes. So getting him at pick 46 I think is a great value. I do agree with Stroud. Just the pocket passer quarterback. Like Kyler went – we have not talked about them yet, but he went 74th overall. I would have much rather waited. You could have got him at 70 instead of Kittle, and then maybe got like a better tight end at 51. I would have much rather had that combo. And then Zamir, Singletary, Zeke, bleh. But Mason, like you said, is a great handcuff. And get rid of Dortch. What are we doing?
All right, let's move on to Love This Game Worm Army. This is Atlee. Atlee is called the Worm because of his wormy ways. He constantly threatens to quit the league, and he says that this is his last dance. This is his last dance, but he can't quit because of his love of the game. He won the league in 2021, which was the highlight of his life. So you wanna take this one?
Yeah, for sure. So starting out with 6, Jamar Chase. So they drafted last night. And it's now we're doing this on Sunday night, and less than a week until their first game. We still don't know what's going to happen. I don't think it's necessarily a bad pick because I'm sure they'll get it worked out, but he might miss a game. It's starting to look like he might miss week 1. Obviously, you don't want your first pick to miss the first game like that, but it's not the end of the world. So yeah, I probably would have. I've kind of liked Justin Jefferson over him a little more this offseason anyway, so I probably would have taken him there. Actually, I think Bijan went 6. Maybe would have taken Bijan, but either way, not like a bad pick. Then you got 2 pretty solid running backs. Kyron at 19. It's just kind of hard with him because the upside is that he just remains the workhorse and he's great. Downside is they lose their job to Corum, so it's kind of a risky pick. I don't know how to feel about it. It's fine, but probably not my favorite pick there. Jacobs at 30. It's a little earlier than I would probably take him, but again, with all Dylan's on IR, Lloyd's hurt, Emmanuel Wilson's been with the team a couple of years and has never done anything, so he's basically got the whole backfield to himself. So it's pretty solid. Then you got the Ravens stack, Lamar and Zay Flowers. That's pretty nice. And then after that, it's fine. Deontay, he's fine. Panthers should be a little bit better this year with the new offensive coaching staff and everything. And Canales is the new coach. He's just always been like fine, but never great. And yeah, the rest of the team after that, nothing really special. I would not have drafted Tua. We already have Lamar. I would not draft Dameon Pierce when there's plenty of other handcuff running backs in the waivers. And then Gabe Davis, he's maybe worth a bench spot. I haven't looked at the receivers on the waivers yet, but he's probably better than. Okay, I guess there's not many good receivers on waivers, so he's probably worth a bench spot, but nothing more than that. So yeah, what do you think?
What are we doing with Dameon Pierce? Like, why?
Yeah,
he had the red carpet rolled out for him last year. It was the bell cow early in the year on a good offense led by CJ Stroud. That's best case scenario if something happens to Joe Mixon, and he was terrible in that role last year. What's going to be different?
Nothing. No.
There are so many other running backs I would rather have that give you more upside, more of that contingency value than Dameon Pierce does. Yeah, Chase is a little risky at this point. At 6, I would be totally happy with him at that point. If we knew he was going to be a full go, but he hasn't practiced, and I don't know if he's not going to play or not. I think he'll play, but if I'm him, I'm not stepping on the field without a contract.
I don't blame him. I wouldn't blame him.
But it sounds like the Bengals themselves, they're kind of against paying him at this point. They want to wait until next year to pay him. So we'll see what happens there. They're a very cheap franchise. So I'm really not surprised.
Players.
Especially when they got T. Higgins on the franchise tag, so they're paying him a decent number at this point. They're paying Burrow. Hopefully we get Chase up there. Kyron Williams in the second round. I made a video a few weeks ago on the Yards for Fantasy YouTube channel. The worst pick in every round, and Kyron Williams was my choice for the second round. That's no surprise for anybody who follows me. Yeah. I'm not a big Kyron Williams guy, never have been. And then on the flip side, I'm also a big Blake Corum guy. So I think this is going to be Blake Corum's backfield at some point this year. And best case scenario for Kyron Williams is he remains the RB1, leads that backfield. However, last year a lot of his production was because he had such high volume. He led all running backs in snap share per game. He led all running backs in touches per game. That at minimum is not going to happen again with the drafting of Blake Corum in the third round. If we look at the third round, this isn't like the Kansas City Chiefs with a loaded roster that have no needs and they can just have a luxury pick in the third round and take a running back. They have needs across their roster, especially on the defensive side. They just lost Aaron Donald. And they decided to use that third round pick on a national champion bell cow running back who's better than Kyron Williams in every way. And Kyron Williams is now going to be the punt return. So unless you get points for punt returns, this is going to be one of the worst picks of this draft, in my opinion. I do slightly agree with you on what you said about Josh Jacobs. Probably a little bit earlier than I would have taken him, but things are going his way. Like every day, it seems like there's something new that is good for Josh Jacobs. You know, AJ Dillon's out for the year. Marshawn Lloyd going into the year injured. Even though I think he's back at practice today, I believe. But it doesn't matter. He hasn't practiced all summer, basically. Yeah. But this is a rookie who hasn't practiced all year, all training camp, essentially. So this is at least early in the year. This is going to be a full bell cow volume Josh Jacobs. I do like the Lamar Zay Flowers stack. I don't think Zay Flowers is going to have like this massive breakout. I think he'll be better than he was last year. But to get him in the 5th round, I think where you got him, stacking him Lamar Jackson, I really like that a lot. Especially as your wide receiver. I guess this is your wide receiver too. I like Njoku as your tight end at the 102. I think that's really good value for him there. And yeah, we already talked about the bench. Tua, Gabe Davis, Damian Pierce, kind of a disastrous bench, in my opinion.
Yeah, get rid of Tua, get rid of Pierce.
Completely restructure that bench.
For sure.
Yeah, we can completely restructure that bench just by the guys who are on the waiver wire. Any last thoughts about this team?
No, I'd say it's probably one of the lower teams. I don't love it. Not the biggest fan.
Yeah, I have them ranked as the 11th team in this league. So I'm with you. All right. After them we're almost done. We got 3 to go. So we got the Deplorables, who, spoiler alert, is my worst team in this league. But we'll see how that shakes out here. Let's see if I can find them. It does make sense. Let's see. First round, they had 12th overall. They went Saquon Barkley. They followed that up with Jonathan Taylor. I don't love the running back starts because even though these are 2 studs who are worth drafting at that spot, I just don't like the way the rest of my roster plays out when I draft running back. So, and you can kind of see that here as we're getting DK Metcalf as our wide receiver 1 in the 3rd round. We follow that up with Sam Laporta, who I haven't drafted a lot of Sam Laporta this year. Just the price of the other tight ends. I think I'd rather not be the first one to take a tight end when I can get Travis Kelce, I can get Dalton Kincaid, I can get Kyle Pitts, I can get Trey McBride, either in a similar area or a little bit later. Not that I hate Laporta. I do love Laporta, so it's not a bad pick. It's just not one I'm super excited about. Joe Burrow seems a little high in the 5th round. I think you said Kyler Murray went 74 overall.
Yeah.
I would rather have Joe Burrow. I'd rather have Kyler Murray just for that rushing. I don't love a pocket passer in the 5th round. Christian Kirk, he should have some decent volume there in that offense. Jackson Smith and Jigba were banking on a breakout. I'm not sure if that's going to happen. We actually have all 3 Seahawks wide receivers on this roster. I just noticed that because we have Tyler Lockett in the 10th round. I do like Brian Robinson this year. 8th round seems like a good spot for him. I've never been a Brian Robinson guy. I don't think he's the most talented, flashy, sexy running back, but he's going to get some volume. I don't expect Austin Eckler is just going to pop in there and be, the Austin Eckler that we saw for many years with the Chargers. I think this is going to be backup running back, 3rd down running back, Austin Eckler. We're still going to get a significant workload from Brian Robinson. I don't think there's a lot of upside with Jordan Andersen. He leaned on a bunch of touchdowns last year. Now we get a quarterback downgrade. Jerry Jeudy does nothing for me. Odell Beckham does nothing for me. I guess you can put him on the IR, but even when he comes back, I have zero confidence that he's going to be fantasy relevant. Yeah, I really don't like this team. I don't like this draft. I like Barkley and Taylor, but I don't like them together. Yeah, what do you think about this team?
Yeah, I'm definitely not a fan. Barkley and Taylor, those are kind of running backs I don't like to take that early because they're pretty similar in just the offenses. Obviously, mobile quarterback, we're going to steal a lot of the rushing work, probably the rushing touchdown, some of it, especially Saquon with the tush push for Hurts. They're not going to get much receiving work because they're, again, both mobile quarterbacks. Neither of them like to check down their running backs very often. There's not the kind of running backs I like to take. And then Metcalf, I'm just every year I feel like he gets hyped up that he's going to be really good, and he's drafted like way above the other. Usually it's just Lockett, but past couple years drafted way above JSN as well. And then he finishes like he's pretty solid, but he never has an amazing season. I would have rather taken we talked about Rice, talked about Michael Pittman. I would have definitely taken either of those guys over him. Maybe not Pittman since you already had Taylor, but I would have taken Rashee Rice over him for sure. And then the rest of it is just like you're really banking on those two running backs. I guess Brad Robinson too, but obviously they're two very good running backs. Not saying they're bad players, but at the 12th and 13th overall picks, not my cup of tea. And then Odell Beckham, I don't know why the fuck he's even drafted. He, to my knowledge, I don't think he's even practiced with them like at all. He's been hurt this whole time. No, and I think Malik Washington is probably going to take the number 3 job. So Beckham's probably like the number 4 receiver. If Washington ends up being as good as he's being hyped, because he's gotten some pretty good hype as a rookie, but maybe McDaniels will trust a veteran more once OBJ's healthy. But either way, even if he's healthy, he's like the number 5 option on the offense at best behind the 2 studs receiver, 2 running backs, and then maybe even Jonnu Smith would get more work than him. So I don't know. I feel like I'm talking too much about a random pick that's probably not going to matter. But yeah, I would drop him.
Well, the only explanation I could think of for even this guy drafting Odell Beckham is he got to the later rounds, and this is like the only guy whose name he recognized. He's just scrolling through the ADP. Who have I heard of? Who have I heard of? Oh, Odell Beckham. He made that great catch in 2014. Let me draft him.
That's probably the most logical explanation, I'd say,
yeah, that's got to be it. I just, from a roster construction standpoint, I don't love the Barkley Taylor start, but these are your only 2 players that I'm excited about having. I don't like this roster. The bench is deplorable.
Very deplorable.
All right, let's move. Let's move on to the Bogota Osos. This is the team the league loves to hate and hates to love. Because of his banter, the league hates when he does well. He's called Losos when he has a losing record, and Wosos when he has a winning record. This is the guy who actually ordered the personalized podcast episode, so we need to be at least a little nice to him. All right, let's find his team. I don't remember whose turn it is.
I'll take this one. Yeah, I'll start by saying I like I says his quote, his mantra: "Life's too short to play it safe. You have to go all in." Very true. Applies to everything, but especially for fantasy, which is obviously what we're talking about. Starting with Breece Hall, I'm a big Breece guy. I'd probably still prefer Bijan slightly more than him, but I don't see anything wrong with taking him at 4th. Yeah. He's awesome for sure. Then he falls up with Travis Etienne, who I'm not the biggest fan of. Taking another running back there, I probably would have I would have rather taken the bet on H-N if I was going to take a running back. Obviously, I know you're not the biggest fan of H-N, but I would have probably rather done that. But Etienne's fine, though. He started out really strong last year and then just kind of fell off towards the end. But the whole team really fell off. It wasn't just him. And then kind of compensating for the lack of receivers with 2 pretty solid receiver picks in Olave and Neighbors. Both of them are kind of similar. Like they're the clear alphas on their team with very little target competition. It's just the offenses are ass. So they kind of have to overcome that. But the talent is certainly there. I like McBride at 52, pretty good pick. Cardinals are going to be better this year, I think. Last year they were one of the top. I think it was like 9th or 10th offense in the second half when Kyler was back, and obviously McBride, can benefit from a better quarterback. Then he gets 3 more receivers, all pretty solid in their own way, I think. Godwin, I don't think he has like a huge ceiling, but he's going to move to the slot, get a little more easier targets this year. Even though I did say I think the Bucs are going to regress some, I do think it's still the case, but I still think Godwin can be a pretty solid pick there. Worthy at 76, he definitely is kind of I won't say boomer bust pick, but definitely like a lower floor, higher ceiling kind of pick. He could be awesome or he could just be but I like taking the risk there. And then kind of the same thing with Christian Watson, although I don't like him as much because he's had 2 seasons to prove it now, and he just proves he always gets hurt. When he's healthy, it's pretty good. He's just never healthy. And then his quarterback is Jordan Love. Okay, yeah. So at 141, that's pretty good value for Love, I guess. I thought.
Yeah.
I mean, he goes a lot earlier than that in most other drafts, so that's a pretty good pick. And then a couple of solid bench picks at running back for Dowdle. I don't think he's going to light the world on fire, but he's probably going to, get a good amount of the snaps in Dallas. Doesn't look like they're going to sign anybody. Probably at this point, probably won't trade for anybody unless it's like, closer to the trade deadline. Then Chuba, he's going to be the guy for a little bit. Again, not the best offense, but last year he got lots of volume and bad offense, still had some solid weeks. And then wraps it up with Jacoby Myers, who he's just very but like with the last pick, he can start for you 1 or 2 weeks maybe and get you like 8 points. So it's a pretty decent team overall, but I wouldn't say it's like the contender to win it all.
Yeah, I like the receivers a lot. I would kind of feel a little bit better if you had taken one with that 21st overall pick instead of Travis Etienne.
Yeah.
But I love Neighbors. I love Neighbors. I think Neighbors is gonna have a big year. I think he could be top 5 in targets for a lot of receivers. I don't know how quality those targets are going to be coming from Daniel Jones, but he's going to get a ton of volume, and he's a great player. So I love the Neighbors pick at 45. Olave's solid. McBride, I think we both like McBride. Worthy's going to give you, I think he'll give you some spike weeks, but I think he'll be up and down. Probably a guy I'd feel a little more comfortable drafting in like a best ball format rather than, setting your lineup format. Because you're never going to know when those big weeks are going to come, but I think he's going to have them, especially if the shoulder injury lingers for Marquise Brown. I like Rico Dowdle there. Maybe not in the 9th round necessarily, but I do like Rico Dowdle. Somebody's going to take some work in that backfield in Dallas. I think he's certainly more explosive than Zeke at this point in their careers. And it's gonna be a quality offense. You can get some touchdowns. Chuba Hubbard could at least give you some production, early in the season, until maybe you find like, higher end, breakout guy off the waiver wire or something. Overall, I think I'm a little higher on this team than you are. But yeah, I think where I would change things would have been in the 2nd round. Even though I'd like ETN, I think I would have changed things in the 2nd round.
Yeah, that's fair. Totally fair.
All right. Let's move on to the final team, which is the Troutwood Twats. This guy his name is Husky, or at least his nickname is Husky. He's an incredible pilot, but he is horrible at fantasy football. So let's see if that's true. Let's look at his team, the Troutwood Twats.
The description makes sense after looking at some of these.
So they started with they started with Tyreek Hill at 2, which is a fine pick there. I'm cool with that. Um, not the guy I would have taken, but he's fine there. James Cook in the second round. I'm not a big James Cook guy. I'd maybe be comfortable taking him in the 5th round. So I'm definitely not taking him in round 2.
No.
I like Devontae Adams. He's fine in the 3rd round. Definitely quarterback question marks with Gardner Minshew. At some point, it's also going to be Aiden O'Connell. There's no way that one of these quarterbacks starts the entire season. At some point, they're going to go to O'Connell, and they'll probably go back to Gardner Minshew. Who knows what's going to happen there? But I don't think it's good news at all for Devontae Adams. Either way, I think he can still get there for us in fantasy, at least be a high-end wide receiver too. George Pickens, I like. I think he could have a breakout, but he has similar quarterback and offensive concerns there with the Steelers. I mean, I think it's a little bit of a red flag that the Steelers are searching and trying to go out and acquire Brandon Ayuk. Does that tell you a little bit something about how the way they feel about George Pickens? I love George Pickens, but to me that tells me maybe they're not as high on him as some of us as fantasy gamers are. But either way, they didn't trade for Brandon Ayuk, so he's still the guy. Clear, nobody near him on that depth chart there. Kenneth Walker, I really like Kenneth Walker in the 5th round. I think that's a good pick. He's an explosive running back. I think that's going to be an improved offense. Javonte Williams feels really high in the 6th round, but I am a little bit higher on him now than I was a month ago with Samaje Perine out the door. But he's still going to lose some passing downs work to Jaleel McLaughlin and also be in an all-great offense. Although I think it sounds like Bo Nix is playing pretty well. That offense could exceed expectations if Bo Nix is good, which would, of course, that would help Javonte Williams. And they have no weapons in the passing game outside of Portland Sutton. And then we get to, I think, we would both agree this is probably one of the better picks of the draft. It's Kyler Murray in the 7th round.
Yeah, definitely.
At 74th overall. We both talked about multiple other teams who we wish they had taken the Kyler Murray route instead of the CJ Stroud, instead of the Joe Burrow. Kyler Murray would have been a better pick, and you get a 2-round discount on him compared to where those guys went. I think he has legitimate QB1 overall upside. I think he'll at least be a top 5 guy for you. He gives you that rushing production, but he's also a really good pocket passer. He's got probably the best weapons he's ever had of his career. I don't know if Marvin Harrison Jr. is better than DeAndre Hopkins was necessarily, but at least as an overall, picture, Marvin Harrison Jr., Trey McBride, Michael Wilson. I'm a big Michael Wilson fan. Greg Dortch is fine as your slot guy. James Conner, Trey Benson in the backfield. I think this is a quality offense all the way around for all levels of the offense.
Yep, I agree for sure.
I think that's going to help Kyler Murray. And remember, Kyler Murray last year was coming off the ACL. He was in a brand new offense. They had new offensive coordinator, new head coach. So he didn't get a chance to be practicing in the offseason, practicing in training camp, practicing in preseason, or playing in preseason with that new offense, with some, Trey McBride. He probably hadn't really, even though Trey McBride was there the year prior, he was backing up Zach Ertz, so he wasn't on the field a ton. So then they just throw Kyler Murray out there in week 10 or whatever, and he's the QB9 in fantasy points per game the rest of the year. So I think we can see a really, really big year from Kyler Murray now. He's had that full offseason. He's had the full training camp. He's healthy. Ladd McConkey. What are your thoughts on Ladd McConkey?
I think at 95, he's fine. I mean, he's not like a great talent, didn't have amazing production, but he's a guy who seems like he's a pretty good route runner and just gets open, and he's probably the best receiver on the team. But at the same time, as a team that's probably going to be more run focused, which I'm not one of those guys like, oh, Chargers going to run the ball every single play and Herbert's never going to throw it. Obviously not that extreme, but still not going to be, slinging it 40 times a game probably. So he's just like fine, just because, the target competition or lack of target competition and a good quality quarterback. Obviously, Justin Herbert's very good. So Yeah, but the fact he never produced much in college and he doesn't have great measurables like at the combine,
Yeah.
that's not very promising.
Well, other than the 4.3940, but
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
um, yeah. I mean, thank you for saying that because I felt like I've been the only one who isn't like super high on Lad McConkey. I know he's a good route runner, but he really didn't do much at Georgia. And I know that's kind of a weird offense, but even in comparison and like within the offense, like his target shares and I know the yards per route run were elite, but other than
Yeah.
that, everything else was just just left you wanting more. I would expect more out of a guy who was drafted early second round of the NFL draft. Um, I don't think we're going to get this big breakout season from Lad McConkey. All right. I also another rookie wide receiver on this roster here who I like far less than Lad McConkey, and that's Xavier Legette. I have no use for Xavier Legette, even though the Panthers drafted him before Lad McConkey in the NFL draft. Zach Charbonnet, I like as a handcuff running back. Although I don't know, I'm not a big fan of handcuffing my own running backs necessarily.
Yeah, not either.
But in general, I do like Zach Charbonnet. I've been really down on Dallas Goedert this year, and I can't really tell you why. I just have a bad feeling about Dallas Goedert. I mean, I know he's in a good offense with a good quarterback. He's got a good role, but he does have to compete with AJ Brown. He does have to compete with Devontae Smith. Saquon Barkley is there now. He's going to get work in the passing game. I know the Eagles historically really throw the running backs a whole lot, but they've also never had Saquon Barkley in their backfield. Still get Jalen Hurts who runs the ball. Goddard was injured for a lot last year. I'm just not a big Dallas Goedert guy. I would have gone a number of different directions at tight end. Overall, what are your overall thoughts on this team?
Yeah, I'll try to just go through it quick because I know we've ever been running for a while,
Yeah.
but it's kind of a story. It's like two sides of a coin because I think some of the picks were really good, some of them were pretty bad. I thought the Kyler pick, as you talked about, really good pick. Like that a lot. I like the Charbonnet pick in a vacuum. I just don't like handcuffing him with my own running back. Like if I didn't have Walker, I'd love to get Charbonnet.
Yeah.
I just don't like handcuffing my guy because if Charbonnet ends up being a good pick, well, that means that Walker was a bad pick, or vice versa. If Walker's a good pick, doesn't necessarily mean that
Right.
Charbonnet is a bad pick, but like the reason you take Charbonnet is because you'd expect him to take advantage of a Walker injury or something like that. So I don't like doing that. I would probably try to get rid of one of them. I'd probably want to keep Walker, but I don't know many people are going to want to trade for a backup running back unless it's for another backup running back. So probably not much there. And then, yeah, I mean, I don't like Cook that early. That's pretty rough. Javonte, not that early. I'm not a big fan of Gus Edwards. Literally just an early down grinder who has to get touchdowns to be worth useful, not worthless. Which I mean, he could be the goal line guy, but yeah, I mean, like best case scenario for a given game for him is like 15 carries, 50 yards, but he gets like 2 touchdowns, something like that, and probably no passing work either. So, yeah, I will say I'm a little bit higher on Goddard though. I don't think he's going to be like a top 5 tight end or anything, but I think with his targets he's going to get, they'll be efficient, and they're going to. Sorry, one second. Let me adjust myself. I think with the addition of Saquon and with it's Kellen Moore's offense coordinator, so I think the offense will just be better than it was in the second half of last year with Brian Johnson. It just kind of fell off, so he'll get more chances to probably score some touchdowns. But yeah, the target share it is a concern. But with the last pick of the draft, though, I mean, because he usually goes like in the 10th round, sometimes the 9th round I've seen. So I think it's fine. But overall, probably not in the top tier of teams, I'd say.
Yeah, I have them as a middle of the pack type of team. All right. let's real quick. Let's talk about who we think is going to win this league. I'm gonna give you my choice while you figure out who you think you're gonna choose to win this league. I'm going with, and there's going to need to be some maintenance done on this team. There's still some work to do to get it championship caliber, but I think we can do it. A tribe called Quest is my prediction to win this league.
All right.
So we got Jalen Hurts at quarterback. I think we're pretty stacked at running back with Jahmyr Gibbs and Rashad White. Also have Ramondre Stevenson. Got the upside with a Trace Brown. But then I love the guys on the bench. Jaleel McLaughlin should give you at least some baseline production. But I'm looking at Trey Benson and I'm looking at Jalen Wright. Both of these guys have league-winning upside. If I had to bet on it, one of these guys is going to be starting in your lineup come fantasy playoff time. And we talked about the Cardinals offense. We like the Cardinals offense. We like the Dolphins offense. These are two good offenses. There's going to be fantasy points for whoever is leading those backfields. If one of these guys is leading those backfields, you've got an RB2, maybe even an RB1 in fantasy football. If it's a slow start, do not drop. Do not drop Trey Benson. Do not drop Jalen Wright early in the season. It's going to take some time. Be patient with those guys. Those are going to be your league winners. Now, what we need to do is we need to take some of these other running backs that are in your lineup, whether it's a Gibbs, whether it's a Rashad White, whether it's Ramondre Stevenson, maybe multiple of those guys. Pair them together. I don't care what you do. Maybe even package in DeAndre Hopkins. We need to upgrade the wide receiver 2 position. We need to find a wide receiver 2. And I think you got the firepower to get it done, especially if you're counting on one of these other running backs, a Chase Brown, Benson, or Wright, to break out in the second half of the year. You can weaken your room there, running back a little bit, to upgrade a wide receiver, and then you're going to have a breakout from Rome Odunze at some point as well. So you can use, even if you trade, say you package Rashad White and Ramondre Stevenson together to go get a good wide receiver, you can get some early season production out of Jaleel McLaughlin. Put him in your lineup. I mean, maybe it's not going to be the same level as those guys that you traded away, but it's going to be enough to get through until these other guys that you're waiting on break out. So that's my plan for a tribe called Quest. They're my champion. Who you got?
That is a good pick. That was one of the ones I was considering, but I think I'm going to go with probably going to mess up the name, but Bermondsey St. Browns. Elite receiving group, just 4 studs. Obviously, Jefferson's the top, but like other 3 guys, all very good. I love Kyle Pitts, obviously. I think he's going to have a big season, so I think he's really good there. Jane Daniels, getting him that late, I think is awesome because I think he has the potential to be like a top 8, maybe even a top 5 quarterback if things go his way. I really like that. Even if he's not, if he's just a QB1, that's still fine. But I think he has potential to be higher than that. The running backs are not like amazing, but there's nothing inherently wrong with any of them. Like Henry, pretty solid. Although I might consider trying to trade him for someone who has a little more pass catching upside. I don't know who, like maybe like trying to trade him for ETN if the guy's open to it, something like that. But I wouldn't like try to force it. And then Mostert, again, everyone's just assuming Achane's going to be like head and shoulders better. Don't know if that's the case necessarily. I mean, I do love Achane, but I do also recognize that Mostert's still going to get his fair share of the touches, still going to get lots of goal line work, so he's still a fine pick. Then Pollard and Dobbins.
There's room for 2 running backs in that back.
Do it. Room for 2 running backs.
I was just saying there's room for 2 running backs, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like even if Achane has a good season, Mostert's still going to have a good season. Obviously, we saw that last year. And then Dobbins, obviously, he has to stay healthy. But if he can stay healthy, very big if. There's probably like a 10% chance of that happening. But if that does happen, I think that'd be a pretty good pick going there. Jameson Williams, he's probably nothing, but, maybe he breaks out. I would try to trade – or probably not even trade. I would probably just drop Brandon Cooks for one of these, running backs on the waivers who could potentially be a starter if things go their way. So Bucky Irving, talked about Braylon Allen, Ty Algier, even Ty Chandler I'd be fine with, but I'd probably take one of those other three guys first. If you drop Cooks for one of those guys, I'd say that would greatly improve the bench because at some point, something's going to happen to, Rashad White or Breece Hall or something, and one of those guys is going to get a game or two, possibly more. Because statistically, just starting running back game that much, they're going to get hurt for at least a couple of games. Maybe not the whole season, but at least a couple of games. They're probably going to miss some time. So I do really like the team, though. I think it's a really strong team, and it does kind of bank on Jane Daniels having a great rookie year. But if it does, I think that would put him over the top. So that's my champ, the Bermondsey St. Browns.
Awesome. I got them as my team 3, team 4. So yeah, I agree. They definitely going to be contender for sure. Yeah. All right. Well, I think that brings us to the end. This was a fun league, just like it was last year. I would love to have like a little hidden camera in their little house that they rent out when they do their draft. You're going to see some wild shit from this group.
Maybe not in Horny Joe's rig, though.
Yeah, let's stay out of his room. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you to the Morten Andersen League, and hope to talk to you guys again soon. Thank you.
Yep. Good luck.